Hello and welcome to the first Hospitality Talks session of 2022. I'm Katy Moses, founder and MD of KAM, and I am joined by Simon Stenning, who is the founder of Future Food Service. Simon, welcome. Thank you for joining me for the first one of 2022. Obviously, the first episode should be looking at the future, so great place to start. Do you want to just let everybody out there know who you are and what you do and what is Future Food Service?
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Katy, and really good to be doing this with you. So Future Food Service is a forecasting provision that works on a strategic advisory basis and producing an annual report with forecasts for the next 3 to 5 years and looking longer ahead as well, looking further afield into the future. And what we do is we analyze the picture of what's happening at the moment to get an understanding of where we're going and why things are going to be different in the future. What are the drivers of change? What are the big macro factors that are driving changes in the market, changes in consumer behavior? And we've just recently launched our latest report on the next era for food service, with forecasts for the next 5 years.
Right, and so the next era, why are we calling it the next era? What's changed?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, in essence, because of what we've gone through in the last couple of years, we are coming out of it and we are going to get a return to normality, but I think everyone would recognize it's not normal. There is this new normality. And actually for the industry, it is a new era that we're going into, and that's why we've called it the next era. The landscape is different, the market's different, consumer behavior is different, and as a result, yeah, we've outlined, why things are going to be a different era for the industry.
And so you mentioned those areas of consumer, which of course we know very well about. But what about the landscape then? How does the landscape look differently from maybe 2 years ago?
Well, there's some elements in the landscape that are the same. I think you know the pub industry very well, and you could say, well, in many cases the pub industry is the same, but of course the way in which consumers are using pubs is changing. The switch from city centres, the switch from wet-led into food-led, the fact that there is still a huge opportunity for big night out, celebration, the cocktails, the experiential. But in the pub sector, there's the majority of pubs will just be pretty similar. But other sectors have changed dramatically. The branded casual dining market, which went through huge change in 2020, with 20-odd% of all their outlets closing, and that's closing permanently. What we're seeing emerging from that is those sites don't disappear. They're just waiting for someone to take them on. And we're seeing the emergence of new, exciting concepts, tapping into new consumer desires. We're seeing fast food take over a lot of those sites. And that's that part of that new landscape is we're moving towards an Americanization in the way in which we lead our lives and in the brands that we buy from, not just because of market entrants like Popeyes or Wendy's, but in the rise of drive-throughs and the fact that whereas previously drive-throughs were just the territory of a couple of the big fast food guys, now not so. Coffee shops moving into, and again, not just the big guys, smaller operators are looking at drive-throughs, and we're seeing a bigger expansion of drive-through as a new channel for a lot of operators. So this new landscape, yeah, some things are the same, but so many things are changing.
And other than the obvious pandemic, what else is driving these changes?
So, I mean, it is the way in which we're living from a consumer perspective of the new forms of hybrid working. Yeah. So the polo mint effect of pushing out from city centres into the suburbs. And whilst long term, there is a growth in city centres, in urban living, in office space development, All of those factors are still going to happen over the longer term. But short term, it means that city centres are under pressure. Suburban sites in the donut, the polo mint, whichever way you want to call it, they're going to do particularly well through the course of the next few years, as we've got used to living and working in a new way. But there's other changes. We've seen the Great Resignation, where a large proportion of the working population has opted out and retired. Doesn't mean they stop doing anything. I think it's where we'll see the rise of the maturepreneur, of starting up new businesses and doing their own thing. But that's all part of these changes, where we see the conveyor belt of generations coming along, bringing new people into the market, and then other people at the other end doing more things. And whether, I think Anne Elliott wrote about this in Propel last week, of looking at the older population engaging with hospitality in cafes, in garden centres, in pubs, and farm cafes. All of those things are thriving because there is an older population, and that's been added to with more people taking early retirement, 50, 60-year-olds, just saying, well, I've had enough of this, and I'm now going to do my own thing.
I think that idea of the older entrepreneur, did you call it maturepreneur? Is that what we call it?
Maturepreneurs, yeah.
Oh, it's another buzzword I've got to learn. But, you know, I think that's very true. And I think if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's, if you want to do something, you know, grab the ball by the horns a little bit, because you don't know what's around the corner. So it sounds to me like you're saying it's not all doom and gloom out there, and actually there's some opportunities that are arising within food service.
Yes. So we've forecasted significant growth in 2022 and then continuing. But there are some challenges. So for 22, we're forecasting 27% growth from 21. A lot of that is about full return to normal trading, just the ability to be open. But then there's other elements of growth which are coming through. As we do go back into normality, we see city centres returning to thrive again to a degree. But the challenges have got to be, we outlined this last year, looking at VAT increasing in October, that there was going to be rising inflation. We've got that, and we're going to see more of it.
Yeah.
And VAT going back up to 20% is going to put more pressure. Pressure on operators. How do they manage the price elasticity of items on their menu as to what they can get away with? But in simple terms, VAT increasing by 7.5%, 7.5 points, means that you either lose 7.5 points off your revenue, literally just hand straight over to the government, or you pass it on in menu prices. So we're forecasting a bit of menu price increasing from April. It's going on already, but a little bit of revenue being taken away. So that, you know, that's a harsh reality. And I know UK hospitality are doing everything they can to lobby for VAT to remain at 12.5%. I can't see that. Okay. So that's a challenge. Squeezed consumers, full stop. Discretionary income, the one thing which comes out from disposable income is going to be eating out. And therefore, we're going to see this polarization. Now, you can say it's a challenge. You can look at it as opportunities. But this polarization says at one end, we've got value-driven social refueling. And at the other end, we've got experiential premiumized dining. Yeah. And you can see how consumers will make their choices. It's a special occasion. I'm going for it. It's every day, drive-through fast food, coffee shop, simple, cheap, whatever. The difficulty sits in that middle ground. Yeah. And if we're going to the pub on a Tuesday night for a quick supper, and it's costing far more than we would expect, we're going to see those occasions dropping out. So there's real challenge for the industry.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we've done some research ourselves, especially just recently on family dining, actually, and looking at exactly that. You know, there tends to be sort of two main occasions that families are going out for. One is food for now, shut up, feed me, I need to eat type thing, because hungry children are not fun. And then the other one is actually we've got a bit of time. We want to have some family time together. We're going to do something that's a little bit, longer dwell time, bigger spend, etc. So I think you're right. I think that middle ground is where we possibly do have a problem. So people can obviously buy this report now, The Next Era 2022 and beyond.
That would be lovely. Yes,
the
report's available. Clients already have already been getting access to it in the last week. Yes, details are available at futurefoodservice.com.
Brilliant, fantastic.
Or contacting me direct.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even, guys, you can come straight to me and I will put you in touch with Simon, because one of the things that I think has been a positive that's come out of the pandemic, if you're allowed to say that there's a positive from a pandemic, is the level of collaboration that's happening within our industry. And certainly here at KAM, we want to work with everybody that has data. We want to work with everybody who has a different point of view, or a different viewpoint, I should say, really, of our wonderful industry. So we will happily pass people on to you for that report.
Yeah, really, really important to collaborate, because there is never one picture that suits everything. And I think there's lots of available help out there for the industry, and a lot of really skilled, experienced support out there, and it's good to be able to collaborate.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Simon, thank you so much for your time and for being my first Hospitality Talks of 2022. Looks like I remembered how to do it. So I will bid you farewell and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.